Hello everyone, welcome to the second video of the series on ICS CXP Mars Komodo 3S DMR conversion. The second video is going to be about the upper gearbox changes and upgrades and the assembly of it. So in the first video I have forgot to mention about one of the big selling points. Of course, one of the very big considerations that we have is the quick spring change system right behind the upper gearbox that is basically accessible when you split the gearboxes. So when you split the rifle, immediately at your you will see that it's at your disposal. So we are going to use it to get our the spring out, and we are going to also upgrade some parts inside that I think that are necessary to be upgraded when we are doing a DMR conversion. So let's get right to it. The pieces we are going to use are mostly from the Maxx brand, and also I'm using some Prometheus Ultimate and Guarder pieces that I'm going to use as updates, and I'm also going to tell you why I'm changing them and if it's really necessary to change or not. So let's begin basically first of all by disassembling our upper gearbox. First of all, what we need to do carefully is to open the quick spring change system by pushing the rod here we have carefully so that it does not pop out, so that our spring guide comes out. And then we can just basically immediately take our spring, which we are going to change later onwards with an M120, that easily. So on the field, whenever you are actually playing assault rifle and want to change to the DMR, you basically need to open the back, take out the current maybe M100 spring, which is enough for in Austrian regulation for playing an assault role, and put back the M120, which will bring up your joule level to a DMR, which is 1.8 joules limit for DMR. So we take out our spring, and after that it's very safe to unscrew all the remaining pieces. First thing to do is basically removing these two screws, which is holding this plate, which is the BB, so-called BB opening on the side of the rifle, so the ejection port. Now we can put the ejection port to the side. After that, we have 4 screws to unscrew. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once we have all the screws out, now we can basically, without any problems, take the unit apart. So you can hold from the both metal parts and just take the system slowly apart from each other. This half and this half. So now you can see both of the halves of the gearbox. So we have a nozzle, we have a tappet plate, the cylinder head, the piston we see here. This is basically the tension spring that we use, the gearbox uses to load the BB into the hop-up chamber, and this is where we have the electronic blowback system that comes with the ICS. So basically, I would like to start with that. There is a piece here that moves together with the tappet plate or with the cylinder when we are shooting. And our cylinder, so we are going to take the cylinder out and everything. The cylinder, the original cylinder, has also a piece that is touching, which is going to pull back this plate by each shot. With each shot, this plate is going to move back and forward together with the piston in order to create that electronic blowback effect. So since I do not want to have it, my first upgrade that I have done is to change my piston to exactly same looking, exactly the same size, exactly the same length, and exactly the same tooth number, which is like 14 tooth piston. This is a piston from Ultimate, and I also would like to wanted to use the fitting piston head for that, which is basically also, I think this is also Ultimate piston head. This is a Prometheus Neo piston head that fits very well with the Ultimate piston. So this is the first upgrade that I'm going to do in my setup only in order to get rid of the blowback function. You can also sand it down, but you will never get it back if you do not buy the original ICS piston. So instead of that, I bought myself another piston in order to get rid of the electronic blowback. ICS piston is a very good piston. This is already an enforced and very strong polymer piston with a very nice piston head. Honestly, I do not believe if you do not want to get rid of the electronic blowback function, you do not need to change this part. So this is the first thing we are going to do. The second thing that we are going to do is that we are going to change the nozzle. ICS comes with an ICS branded nozzle, which is a plastic nozzle, and I think it has one single or even not any O-rings inside. The nozzle is not really working for me that well. And also, as you can see, the ICS comes with a plastic one single O-ring. I think it's a weird looking cylinder head. I basically do not like this also, and in order to have a compatibility with the parts that I'm going to now upgrade to, I am going to get rid of this also. Instead of these two, we are going to have a CNC cut Maxx double O-ringed and also with a let's say like a small sorbo pad M4 style, M4 V2 gearbox style cylinder head, and also which is very compatible with the unit that we are buying is the 21.25 millimeters nozzle head. So nozzle for the piston head, also from Maxx itself. So this is giving me, until now, I've tried a couple of different nozzles, couple of different sizes, also even from the same brand. This is the best combination that we have for the ICS. I'm going to use the standard cylinder, which is fitting very nicely, and the air seal is very good with the Maxx model nozzle and the piston head. So one of the best combinations that you can get for your ICS. So these two parts are going to be the next ones after the piston that we are changing. The last thing that I would like to actually change is the tappet tappet plate. ICS had already enforced polymer, a very good, very strong tappet plate, but it was a little bit deformed when it came, and I actually wanted to see which one I should buy if I cannot find anywhere the original ICS one. And the DMR version 7 Tappet plate for V2 gearboxes is a perfect match. It's exactly the same thing. They look exactly the same, they have the same curve, same length and so on. So you can basically use DMR V7 Tappet plate for your ICS rifle. Now we can start putting everything back together. So we can take out our SP120 spring also in order to put in our rifle, and I'm going to take my oils and come back for the reassembly. Now we are ready for reassembly. I have here only the upgrade parts and the originals that I'm not changing, and the parts that I'm going to upgrade left on the table. So we are going to put everything together back in order and also give it a nice oil, lubricate the cylinder a little bit, and also we are going to try to also use some silicone grease for the places that we think that the air seal needs to be better than it is. So the first thing is, of course, this part here. So I use a little bit, just a little bit of a silicone grease in order to have a better air seal in the piston. After greasing using the silicone oil on the piston head, we can put it back in its place. And all good. So this additional grease will help us with have a better air seal. As you know, you need to clean your nozzle head, which is going to go into your hop-up chamber. It is not allowed, I mean you are not allowed basically to grease the nozzle head, which is going to put some grease on the bucking, and this is going to then curve your BBs. So try to keep the nozzle head clean, and you can already place it on the head. The next thing we are going to put is the piston inside the cylinder. I'm not changing the cylinder. It is a very well cylinder from my perspective that ICS is giving. It's a brass one, but it's a very nice cut, and it's also suitable for a DMR. I don't think that it's really necessary to change it. And with the Prometheus Neo head, the piston works very nicely, and it's a very nice fit from the size also. Inside the piston, I just use a very little of 200 CVT. Use 100% silicone oil, very thin, in order to make the piston slide inside the cylinder freely. Not excessively, but just a bit. And perfect. So now we can basically try to put everything back in order. So we first need to put the tappet plate in its place. And this is done by having this tension spring that is going to move our tappet plate and the nozzle back and forth, going to this hook here on the tappet plate. And put the tappet plate exactly at the below where it can sit properly. So there is already a place for it to sit. It needs to sit on that place. The next thing we are going to do is to put our cylinder in its place. So first you need to basically put the nozzle head into the tappet player, like tappet plate, sorry, like this, and then slowly push without breaking it, push your cylinder head inside the nozzle and try to find, with the help of any tool, maybe the right place for the cylinder that needs to sit exactly at the end of the gearbox. Right now it is sitting, most probably we can even test it, perfectly. tappet plate is moving freely. I can show you like this also. Very nice. So then the next thing is that we put back the piston, and remember the teeth of the piston should be looking downwards, and there is these rails on the piston that is going to sit on top of this part here. So you can also just use some oil so that the piston moves freely on there. Also, we are going to do the other side. Also from this gearbox, you put inside and it sits right there. The next thing that we would like to do is maybe just putting some grease on any kind of springs that we see. This is just to not to have any boing sounds, this thin metal sounds from the springs that we have inside the gearbox, and some thick grease will always help to reduce that voice, just as a tip. The next thing that we can do is basically closing our gearbox, because everything inside is fine. We are going to add our new spring later after we reassemble it. So whenever you put the other side of the sorry, we forgot to grease this side also. Let me just put a little bit of oil so that the piston works properly in it. Just a little bit, not much. And as you can see, if you have put everything in place correctly, the sitting of the two gearbox pieces without any forcing is just perfectly aligned. This is it. So now we can, of course, first put our screws back in. After we put our screws back in, it's time to put the ejection port on top of our gearbox and screw these two mini screws. If we are lucky, once we are finished, everything should be working properly. Right now, the only remaining thing that we have is to put our spring back inside. So this is now the new spring that I have. I am going to also use some grease on this spring also, in order to get rid of that sound that the springs make. Not too much, but a little bit, which is going to make it stiff. And then we slide our spring inside the gearbox. We put our spring guide on top of it. I'm going to change my screwdriver. So right after that, we basically need to push it back inside and turn. And that's it. And we are done. As you can see, everything is in place very easily. We have upgraded couple of parts, cleaned the inside of the gearbox, we did some oiling, we changed the spring and so on, very easily. This split gearbox innovation is a very good idea and works perfectly. This is the most selling point, the best selling point that ICS has. The next thing that you need to do is basically you just need to put your I don't exactly know what this is called, but put your piece, which is helping to open the ejection port and slide it back into your rifle. This is basically it. I hope you enjoyed my video. The next video that I'm going to prepare is going to be about the hop-up chamber, the rotary hop-up chamber, the ICS stock one, how we upgrade it to a Maxx hop-up chamber, and we are going to change the inner barrel also. So keep on following. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification button. See you next video.